Here's the reason most English learners can talk about complicated topics like politics or science, but freeze up when someone asks them a simple question like, "What did you do today?" It's because you've been learning fancy vocabulary and grammar rules, but nobody taught you the most important English skill of all, which is talking about your own life using simple, everyday sentences. And that's exactly what we're going to fix today. Hi, I'm Marcy, and I've been teaching English for over 10 years. And I can tell you right now that the students who make the fastest progress aren't the ones memorizing difficult words from textbooks. They're the ones who can describe their actual day, their real routine, their morning, their afternoon, their evening. Because when you can talk about your own life in English, you can talk to anyone about anything. So today, we're going to build that skill together. And by the end of this lesson, you'll have everything you need to describe your entire day in clear, natural English sentences that you can use in real conversations. And trust me, this is going to change the way you practice English forever. Now, before we jump into the sentences, let me explain why talking about your daily routine is actually the smartest way to learn English, especially if you're a beginner or intermediate learner. When you describe your day, you're not guessing or imagining situations. You're talking about real things that happen to you every single day, which means the vocabulary is relevant. The sentences are useful, and your brain remembers them better because they're connected to your actual life. Think about it. You wake up every day, right? You eat breakfast, you get dressed, you go somewhere or do something, you eat lunch, you work or study, you come home, you eat dinner, you relax, you go to sleep. These things happen every day. So if you can describe them in English, you have instant conversation material that works in any situation. When you meet someone new and they ask, "Tell me about yourself," or "What do you do?" or "How was your day?" you'll be ready. You'll have the words, you'll have the confidence, and you'll sound natural because you've practiced talking about real life, not fake textbook scenarios. And here's another huge benefit. When you practice describing your routine, you naturally learn the most common verbs in English. Verbs like wake up, get up, take, have, eat, drink, go, come, work, study, watch, listen, read, make, do, finish. And these are the verbs you'll use hundreds of times every single day in English conversations. You also learn time expressions like in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, at night, at 7 o'clock, around noon, before lunch, after work. And these are essential for telling stories and explaining when things happen. So let's start at the very beginning of the day with the morning routine. And I'm going to give you lots of simple, useful sentences that you can use to describe your own morning. The first thing that happens every day is you wake up. And there are several ways to talk about this. You can say, "I wake up at 6:30, or "I usually wake up around 7, or "I wake up early on weekdays, or "I wake up late on weekends." Notice that we say wake up at when we mention a specific time, but we say wake up around when the time is not exact. After you wake up, maybe you stay in bed for a few minutes. So you can say, "I lie in bed for a few minutes," or "I stay in bed and check my phone," or "I hit the snooze button and sleep for 10 more minutes." Then you get up, which means you get out of bed. So you can say, "I get up at 7," or "I get out of bed slowly," or I jump out of bed when I'm late. Now you're awake and out of bed. So what do you do next? Most people go to the bathroom, and here are some common sentences. I go to the bathroom. I brush my teeth. I brush my teeth for 2 minutes. I wash my face with cold water. I look at myself in the mirror. I comb my hair. Or I brush my hair. Maybe you take a shower in the morning. So you can say, I take a shower every morning. I take a quick shower. I take a long, hot shower. I wash my hair. I dry my hair with a towel. Or I dry my hair with a hairdryer. After your shower, you get dressed. And here are some ways to talk about that. I get dressed. I put on my clothes. I choose what to wear. I wear jeans and a t-shirt. I wear comfortable clothes. I wear work clothes. Or I wear a suit to the office. Now let's talk about breakfast, which is super important and gives you lots of vocabulary practice. You can say, I have breakfast at 7:30. I eat breakfast with my family. I make breakfast for myself. I skip breakfast when I'm in a hurry. And then you can describe what you eat. I usually eat cereal with milk. I have toast with butter and jam. I eat eggs and bacon. I have a bowl of oatmeal. I eat fruit and yogurt. I make scrambled eggs. I boil an egg. I make pancakes on Sunday mornings. And don't forget about drinks. I drink coffee every morning. I have a cup of tea. I drink orange juice. I need coffee to wake up. I drink 2 cups of coffee. While you're eating breakfast, you might do other things. So you can say, I watch the news on TV. I check my phone. I read the newspaper. I listen to music. I talk to my family. I plan my day. Before you leave the house, there are usually a few things you need to do. And here are some sentences for that. I pack my bag. I put my laptop in my bag. I check that I have everything. I look for my keys. I can't find my keys. I put on my shoes. I put on my jacket. I lock the door. I leave the house at 8 o'clock. I walk to the bus stop. I drive to work. I take the train. I ride my bike. Now let's move to the middle of the day, the afternoon, and talk about what happens at work, at school, or at home. If you work in an office, here are some useful sentences. I arrive at the office at 9. I turn on my computer. I check my emails. I reply to messages. I have a meeting at 10. I talk to my boss. I work on a project. I write reports. I make phone calls. I drink coffee with my colleagues. Around midday, it's time for lunch. And you can say, I eat lunch at noon. I have lunch at 12:30. I take a lunch break. I go to a restaurant. I bring lunch from home. I eat a sandwich. I have a salad. I eat rice and chicken. I heat up my food in the microwave. I eat at my desk. I go out for lunch with coworkers. After lunch, the afternoon continues. And here are more sentences you might use. I go back to work. I feel sleepy after lunch. I drink an afternoon coffee. I have more meetings. I finish my tasks. I work until 5. I leave work at 6. And if you're studying, you can say, I go to class. I attend lectures. I take notes. I study in the library. I do my homework. I work on assignments. I meet with my study group. Maybe you don't work or study. Maybe you stay home, and that's fine too. You can say, I stay home during the day. I take care of my children. I clean the house. I do the laundry. I wash clothes. I vacuum the floor. I do the dishes. I go shopping. I go to the supermarket. I buy groceries. I run errands. I pay bills. I cook dinner. I prepare meals. In the afternoon, you might also take a break and do something for yourself. So you can say, I take a short break. I rest for a few minutes. I go for a walk. I exercise at the gym. I go running. I do yoga. I practice English. I listen to podcasts. I watch videos online. I read a book. Now let's talk about the evening, which is when most people relax and spend time at home. Here are some sentences about coming home. I come home at 6. I get home around 7. I arrive home tired. I open the door. I take off my shoes. I take off my jacket. I change my clothes. I put on comfortable clothes. I say hello to my family. I greet my dog. Or I greet my cat. What do you do when you first get home? You can say, I sit down and rest. I lie on the couch. I check my phone. I watch TV for a few minutes. I talk to my family about the day. Then it's time for dinner. And here are lots of useful sentences. I cook dinner. I make dinner for my family. I help cook dinner. My partner cooks dinner. We cook together. I order food delivery. I order pizza. I eat dinner at 7. We have dinner together. I eat rice and vegetables. I have pasta. I eat chicken and salad. I set the table. We sit at the table. We talk during dinner. I enjoy my meal. Dinner is delicious. I wash the dishes after dinner. I clean the kitchen. I put the dishes in the dishwasher. I dry the dishes. After dinner, the evening continues, and this is relaxation time for most people. So you can say, I watch TV, I watch my favorite show, I watch a movie, I watch Netflix, I browse the internet, I scroll through social media, I check Facebook, I check Instagram, I talk to friends online, I video call my family, I play video games, I read a book, I read before bed, I listen to music, I listen to a podcast. Some people use the evening for hobbies or learning. So you can say, I practice my hobby. I play the guitar. I draw. I write in my journal. I study English. I do English exercises. I practice speaking. I learn new words. As the evening gets later, you start preparing for bed. And here are sentences for that. I start getting ready for bed. I feel tired. I'm sleepy. I brush my teeth before bed. I wash my face. I take a shower at night. I put on my pajamas. I set my alarm. I set my alarm for 6:30. I charge my phone. I turn off the lights. I get into bed. I lie down. I read for a few minutes. I close my eyes. I fall asleep quickly. I have trouble sleeping. I go to sleep at 11. I sleep for 7 hours. I sleep well, or I don't sleep well. Now, those are individual sentences, but let me show you how to put them together into a complete description of your day. Because in real conversations, you don't just say one sentence. You connect several sentences to tell a little story about your routine. For example, you could say, I usually wake up at 7, and I stay in bed for a few minutes before I get up. Then I go to the bathroom and brush my teeth. I take a quick shower and get dressed. For breakfast, I usually have toast and coffee. I leave the house at 8 and drive to work. I arrive at the office around 8:30. See how I connected those sentences? I used words like then, and, before, for breakfast, around, to make it flow naturally. Let's try another example for the afternoon. I have lunch at noon. usually a sandwich or a salad. After lunch, I go back to my desk and continue working. I have a meeting at 2, and then I work on my project until 5. I finish work at 5:30 and drive home. I get home around 6. And one more for the evening. When I get home, I change into comfortable clothes and rest on the couch for a few minutes. Then I cook dinner, usually something simple like pasta or rice with vegetables. We eat dinner together at 7 and talk about our day. After dinner, I wash the dishes and then relax. I watch TV or read a book. I go to bed at 11 and usually fall asleep quickly. Notice that I'm using the present simple tense for most of these sentences because I'm talking about my regular routine, things that happen every day or most days. This is really important. When you describe your usual routine, you use present simple. I wake up, I eat, I go, I work. But if you're talking about what you did yesterday or last week, you use past simple. I woke up, I ate, I went, I worked. And if you're talking about what you're doing right now, at this moment, you use present continuous. I'm waking up, I'm eating, I'm going, I'm working, but that's less common when describing routines. Let me give you some useful words and phrases that help you connect your sentences and make your description sound more natural. For sequencing, you can use first, then, after that, next, finally. For example, first, I wake up. Then I brush my teeth. After that, I take a shower. Next, I have breakfast. Finally, I leave for work. You can also use time expressions in the morning, at noon, in the afternoon, in the evening, at night, before work, after work, before lunch, after dinner, when I get home, before bed. These help your listener understand when things happen. You can use usually, normally, generally, typically to show that something is your normal routine. And you can use sometimes, occasionally, often, rarely, never, always to describe how often something occurs, to show how frequently something happens. For example, I usually wake up at 7, but sometimes I wake up earlier. I always have coffee in the morning. I often eat cereal for breakfast. I rarely skip breakfast. I never go to work without brushing my teeth. Now, let me give you some practical tips for using all of this in real life. First, practice describing your own actual day, not an imaginary day. Use real times, real activities, real food that you eat, because this makes it easier to remember and more useful for real conversations. Second, start simple. You don't need to describe every single detail of your day, just the main activities. As you get more comfortable, you can add more details. Third, practice out loud, even if you're alone. Talk to yourself in English about your day. You can do this in the morning and describe what you're going to do today, or in the evening and describe what you did today. Fourth, record yourself on your phone describing your routine. Then listen to it. This helps you hear how you sound and identify areas where you can improve. Fifth, try to vary your sentences. Don't always start with I. Use different time expressions. Use different verbs. Make it more interesting. Instead of I wake up, I brush my teeth, I eat breakfast, you could say, my day starts at 7 when my alarm goes off. After getting out of bed, the first thing I do is brush my teeth. Then I head to the kitchen and have a quick breakfast before leaving for work. See the difference? It's still simple English, but it sounds more natural and varied. let me also give you some common questions that people might ask you about your routine, so you can be prepared to answer them. Someone might ask, "What time do you wake up?" And you can answer, "I wake up at 7," or "I usually wake up around 6:30." They might ask, "What do you have for breakfast?" And you can say, "I usually have cereal and coffee." Or, "I don't eat breakfast. I just drink coffee." They might ask, "How do you get to work?" And you can answer, "I drive." Or, "I take the bus." Or, "I walk because I live close to my office." They might ask, "What time do you finish work?" And you can say, "I finish at 5." Or, "It depends, usually around 6." They might ask, "What do you do in the evening?" And you can say, "I usually relax at home and watch TV." Or, "I like to read or practice my English." They might ask, "What time do you go to bed?" And you can answer, "I go to bed around 11." Or, "I try to sleep by 10, but sometimes I stay up later." These are very common questions in English conversations, especially when you're getting to know someone. So being able to answer them smoothly and naturally is really valuable. Now, I want you to think about your own routine for a moment. What time do you wake up? What do you eat for breakfast? What do you do during the day? How do you spend your evening? And I want you to think about how you would describe these things in English. You have all the vocabulary and sentence patterns now, so you can build your own description. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be long. It just has to be real and clear. Even 3 or 4 sentences about your morning, 3 or 4 about your day, and 3 or 4 about your evening. That's already a complete description of your routine. And that's exactly what you need to be able to talk about your life in English. And here's something really important. Your routine is unique to you, and that makes it interesting. Maybe you wake up very early or very late. Maybe you have an unusual job or hobby. Maybe you have children, and your routine revolves around taking care of them. Maybe you're a student, and your day is full of classes. Maybe you work from home, and your routine is different from people who go to an office. Whatever your routine is, it's yours. And when you can describe it in English, you're sharing a real piece of your life. And that creates genuine connection with the people you talk to. This is what language is really for. Not just passing exams or completing exercises, but connecting with other people and sharing your experiences. So I want to encourage you to take what you've learned today and actually use it. Talk about your routine in English whenever you can. If you have a language exchange partner or a tutor, tell them about your day. If you're in an English class, volunteer to describe your routine. If you're practicing alone, record yourself or write it down, and then say it out loud. The more you practice, the more automatic it becomes. And soon, you won't have to think about the words. They'll just flow naturally because you've practiced them so many times. And remember, learning English is not about memorizing lists of words or complicated grammar rules. It's about being able to communicate real ideas about your real life. And that starts with simple things, like describing your daily routine. You're doing great. You're learning practical, useful English that you can use every single day. And that's exactly what you need. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I'm Marcy, and I really hope this lesson has given you the confidence and the vocabulary to talk about your day in English. And remember, every time you practice, you're getting better. So keep going, keep speaking, keep describing your life in English. And I'll see you in the next lesson.